Welcome to this week's vlog. On Monday and Tuesday we had NFU Council, where your representatives from across England and Wales come together to make sure that the voice of members on the ground is heard loudly and clearly. We had a really good discussion around inheritance tax and the changes that have been made, but also making it very clear we do not support the policy as it stands, and when there is the next political opportunity for further change, we will be out there campaigning to try and secure the commitments that we need from all political parties. The work in the background will continue to make sure we have a detailed position explaining very clearly why we cannot support the policy and what we need for the future. Members will be involved in developing that policy and the lobbying will continue. We also had a good session on the EU reset and the SPS arrangements and on what the future of SFI looks like, as well as hearing from all of our commodity board chairs. On Wednesday morning, I was at the Sustainable Foods Conference, and it's really important that the voice of farming is heard within that conversation. There were several hundred people in the audience, and when I did an audience poll, I would suggest about 75% worked in sustainability. There was probably less than a dozen farmers in the room, and there were very few commercial people. The challenge of having a conversation about sustainability without those delivering it on the ground, the farmers, and without those that are paying for it, the commercial people, means that we have a disjointed policy that without understanding the implications and the deliverability. Joining this up is absolutely essential to arrive at a policy that can be delivered by you, farmers, and that can also be paid for by the commercial reality within the supply chain. Later in the week, I've also met with the deputy head of the EU mission. With everything going on around the EU reset, this is a really important time to be having that conversation. We need to make sure that they understand why we're pushing for the carve-outs that we are around gene editing and why we need a sensible transition period, particularly around plant protection products. It was a great opportunity. We met with the EU Ag councillors afterwards to make sure that the voice of British farming can be heard in that conversation and that they understand what the unintended consequences would be if they don't accept the need for those transition arrangements. I'm now going to hand over to Jamie, who's going to cover this in more detail on the back of a report by CropLife.
Hi everyone, I'm not sure if you have seen the CropLife UK report that came out this week that shows the impact on agriculture and wider food production could be as much as 800 million in the first year. It's quite a concern for us. They're not our figures, but they're quite interesting figures, and they do sort of bring to life the concerns that we've been sharing with DEFRA, with UK Mission, with the EFRA committee, and with the Cabinet Committee. So on your behalf, we've been making it really clear that the 4 active chemicals that we've been able to use here in the UK in the last year or so, we need to keep them. We can't just give them away. The impact on particularly grain wheat is massive if we can't have decent blackgrass control, which one of these products really does. And when we've been speaking to government, they've sort of said how important, how quick do we need to do something? And we've said, well, the crop in the ground now has been treated with these products. That goes into store after harvest and could easily be being sold come June 2027, which is currently where we're being told that government want to have us realigned. So just to sort of cover off what we're doing, we're lobbying quite hard with everybody as ever. We have got another meeting with the F committee next Tuesday, where we'll go into more detail with them again, and they'll continue as they have done on so many things for us, particularly in the crops sphere recently, really support us, which is great. Have a look at this. Thank you.
On Thursday, I also met the Farming Minister, Dame Angela Eagle. Now, we have a regular catch-up and an opportunity to raise the things that are important at that moment in time. The budget for SFI is absolutely essential at the moment. Where has the 1.85 billion gone that used to go out in direct support when it was at its peak? How much of that is making its way down to the SFI? We need that level of transparency, and we need it urgently to understand what is going to be available in the next version of the SFI. We also talked about standing charges and electricity, particularly around high demand but low usage. There are hundreds of millions of pounds of inflation that may be coming into the food system from the 1st of April if the government don't recognise they've got this wrong. It's really important that we've raised it with the Department for Net Zero and also with Angela Eagle, and hopefully they can start to recognise they do not need, and it's unacceptable to have that inflationary pressure. We also moved on to the EU reset with Angela Eagle, and they need to recognise the potential consequences of this dynamic alignment. The NFU did not support dynamic alignment. We wanted mutual recognition. The government are moving forward with dynamic alignment, but they have to recognise there are consequences of that, and we need to secure the transition arrangements and the carve-outs to make it acceptable for the farming industry. Finally, this is the last opportunity for you to take part in the supply chain review for crops. This is an opportunity that many of you have been asking for a long while. Please do make sure you fill in the consultation and make sure your voice is heard. Thank you very much. We look forward to speaking to you next week.